the mic, making sure production's tight.
Hello, welcome to The United Man. My name is Shane. Today we've got a lot to get through. Today we're going to be going through the potential greatness of Mason Greenwood. We're also going to be looking at the core that Manchester United have to build around. Ultimately, we've got a long way to go, so we've got to start with building around what we've got at the moment. We're going to be looking at where we are placed in the table as well. And ultimately, there's a decision to be made, I feel, with Fred and Mctomminay. I don't feel it can be both. It's got to be one or the other. So let's start with our form and where we're placed in the league at the moment. Obviously, we're looking at sitting behind Tottenham, Leicester. Obviously, City's doing their thing. Liverpool. Obviously, we're currently occupying 6th position. Now, for me, the issue isn't so much that we're, for example, not defensively solid. For me, we have the personnel to be defensively solid, and I'll touch on that with our core going forward. But for me, it's more based on the amount of goals that we're not scoring. And obviously, we've bagged a few in recent games, but obviously going back throughout the rest of the season, we've not scored enough. Now, I feel like the fact that our midfield, we've been struggling for creativity all this season when obviously ultimately Pogba's been out. Other than Pogba, we lack the sort of cutting edge to have a needle pass, or, you know, the fact that we can get in between the lines or play in between the lines. Because obviously when we come up against teams that are above us in the table, we perform better purely because they're coming at us. And we've got such pace on the break, we can hit them for 6. But when we've got the teams that pack their teams in front of us, put 11 bodies behind the ball, we ultimately struggle. Mason Greenwood, the whiz kid. Mason Van Greenwood, as he's been coined by my mate. Listen, I've mentioned before, I've said it for a long time, he could be anything he wants. I just happen to believe he will be one of the well beaters. I can't yet say he's a core piece of our current setup because he's only just coming to the scene, obviously. But he is getting there. He's becoming someone that has to be involved in the squad. I think at the moment he is someone that has to be involved in the squad. But in terms of the starting lineup, not quite yet. You can see he's still working his way in, which is fine. We don't have to rush him. But I think it's crucial that we continue with his development as it's been going, not playing him in too many games, definitely not starting him in too many games, letting him sort of ply his trade in the Europa League, League Cup, that sort of thing, and obviously letting him make substitute appearances in the Premier League. Now, a few facts, as you could probably see already, with appearances for the first team, Mason Greenwood has made 22 appearances. He scored 9 goals and assisted on two occasions. Now, he turned 18 at the beginning of October, so he's only just turned 18. So he's still grown into his body, let alone, you know, learning how to apply his trade in the Premier League. Now, his youth record is outstanding, obviously, so that's including the under-23s and the under-19s as well. He's played in 47 games. He's assisted on 12 occasions and scored 44 goals. Now let me repeat that. That's under 23s and under 19s or 18s, whatever they call it now. He's scored on 44 occasions in 47 games and assisted 12 times. So he does like to look for a pass, but ultimately he knows where the back of the net is. Everyone's saying he's a goal scorer. Everyone's saying he's a natural finisher. Everyone's saying he's clinical. So yeah, it's exciting times. I genuinely believe he could be. I don't want to say. I was going to go on a tangent and say that he could be this, he could be that. Let's just say for now, he's got the potential to be a Manchester United legend. That's a big statement, I know. Now, I just wanted to touch on a point with the fact that we've already accumulated and sort of nurtured a core into place at the moment. And I just, obviously, as you can see on a graphic, that I've gone with part of our core is David De Gea, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, obviously Harry Maguire, Axel Tuanzebe, who I believe ultimately will be taking Victor Lindelof's place. Now, he just needs to stay injury free. He's had quite a few niggling little injuries. Obviously done well for Aston Villa last season on loan, but I believe he's ready for the full-time job now next to Harry Maguire. Part of that core that I've gone with is, obviously, the obvious one is Marcus Rashford, who I believe is the only one of the three up top at the moment who is a definitive part of our core. Now I know Daniel James has done really well, but he's 22. It remains to be seen if he's going to hit those heights of what we need, but he's a very, very good player. Let's see if he can become special. And then I've gone for either, not both, either Fred or McTominay. I'd probably say more McTominay because he's sort of Man United through and through. So I'd more say he is sort of... He's this sort of spirit of Manchester United within that team, I'd say. So for me, he'd have to be part of that core. So, but that leads me on to my next point, whereby there's a decision to be made with regards to, I believe it has to be either Fred or Scott McTominay, not both. Now, I know a lot of people will be saying, well, don't really agree with you because Scott McTominay and Fred have been doing well in recent weeks, which I couldn't agree more with. Fred really impressed me in the Manchester City game. McTominay's passing for the Everton game was, shocked me as well. But I genuinely, hand on heart, believe we cannot have those two as starting options. If we're really looking to get back to the glory days, as I said before, I don't believe we can have both of those in the starting lineup. I believe it has to be one or the other. Now, the reason I say that is because ultimately, if we play both, and I think you've seen it in enough games now to realise that technically we're very, very weak if we're playing both Scott McTominay and Fred. Now, for me, for us to be able to really, really, really get back to where we need to be, it has to be Fred or McTominay and two others. A specialist defensive midfielder, whether it be Pogba and McTominay, and one other, whether it be Bruno Fernandes, Eriksen, James Maddison, whoever it may be. I believe it needs to be a specialist defensive midfielder, Scott McTominay or Fred, and one other. It just depends on who we go with. If obviously, as I said, if Pogba doesn't stay, then it's going to be a Fred. If Pogba doesn't stay, it's going to be a James Maddison, Eriksen, Bruno Fernandes, something like that. But I do not believe that McTominay and Fred can coexist in the starting lineup. That being said, and obviously mentioning those potential signings, let me know who you feel would be better suited, Fred or McTominay, or indeed if you think they're both capable of playing in a three with Pogba or someone else, if we do go out and buy someone. Let me know what your thoughts are on that one, because I'm kind of torn on that. I don't really know who my preference would be out of the two of them. Because Fred's really impressed me that much over the past sort of like 4 or 5 weeks. I'm torn. McTominay's been coming along. You can see the progression even since pre-season. You can really, really see the movements he's made in terms of getting better and better. As I mentioned, his passing has really improved as well, which was displayed to full effect against Everton. But as I mentioned before, I believe we'll be too technically weak and we will not be able to retain possession if we have them both starting. And then again, it puts too much pressure on, if Paul Pogba stays, on him to create the majority of our opportunities. So I don't believe they can both stay in the starting lineup. Pogba obviously has come out mentioning that Raiola, Paul Pogba's agent, has come out mentioning that Pogba may want to stay, and he wants to stay, but he feels like he needs help. And that's fine and well and good, and I happen to second that notion in terms of Pogba needing help. However, he does need to stand up and be counted in regards to, he's one of the senior players at the club now. Obviously, he's been there a long time, obviously, apart from his stint away at Juventus. But other than that, he's been at the club a long time. He knows what the club is about. He knows what the club's traditions are about. So he himself really needs to knuckle down. And even if, for example, he does end up leaving, he needs to knuckle down, get some minutes under his belt, get games under his belt, and most importantly, performances. I'm not even too fussed about assists or goals, because those I believe will come if his performance levels are up there and consistently up there. So hopefully he pulls out the bag and we get the Pogba that won the World Cup or that played for Juventus. Right, don't forget to leave your comments, share, subscribe and leave a like. Make sure you comment and let me know, because obviously this is a determining factor as to whether or not I need to know what your opinions are, because I'm torn on it. If you agree with the core as well, would you have Mason Greenwood in there? As I said, I've left him out there because obviously he's still coming into the squad. So I've not put him part of it as part of the core members, if you like. Let me know and we'll see you on the next one.